From the 6++ studio that is my room, I'm Edward Fawcett. This week, we're going to be having a quick whiz through the weather, and then we're going to be having a look at the 10 undefeated lists at the end of week 3 of the Square-based online tournament. There are some slight issues with the figures. There have been a number of drops. This is about the point I'd expect people to start dropping 3 weeks into an event, but the way that New Recruit handles drops is it just doesn't seem to show points for anyone who has played an opponent and then had their opponent dropped. So figures are slightly out, but let's be honest, these figures are never really a true statistical snapshot of reality. It's 100 players, it's now down to 85. So this is vibes, you know. We're looking at vibes. It's not pure maths. It's not real hardcore stats. It's just vibes. That's why I'm doing this, the weather. So, as you can see here, weather is getting quite extreme. We've got some lovely sun up here in the frozen north. Coming down across the coast of Bretonia, we see some sun there as well. A little bit cloudy off to the bottom of the screen there with the lizardmen, but as you get further inland, there is a delocalized tornado sweeping through some sort of wood. There's some real wacky weather in the underhives. And if you go to a mountain range, it's just bad. Just don't be in the mountains. Like, dwarves are doing better, but like, God, get out of those mountains. So, without further ado, we're looking at this week the Beastmen. Beastmen didn't win a single game this week. It ain't good. So I've got to say on the matter, it ain't good. They are 0 for 3 2 weeks in a row, and that puts them at a grand total of, I think, 2 games won across 9 played, so 22% win rate there. Not looking great for Beastmen, but surely week 4 we're going to see some victory. I believe in them. Nobody beats Beastmen 3-0 3 weeks in a row. You know, that's what I'm saying. Then if we move on to the Bretonians had, honestly, I'd say a pretty okay week. They only got 4 wins, 40% win rate, but they did have 2 draws as well. One of their players doesn't seem to have dropped, but didn't get a game. I'm assuming because their partner dropped. Unfortunate there. Only 4 losses for the Bretonians. They're looking at now quite a low win rate overall, actually, 31%. I think we're seeing quite a few ties for Bretonians, which is interesting. Not what I was expecting. I think actually from memory, a lot of the ties are Bretonians into Bretonians, so that might explain it. Chaos Dwarves. We are down to only 3 players for Chaos Dwarves. 1 win and 2 losses, and that puts them at the coveted 33% degrees centigrade. Overall, though, they're looking at a 50% win rate. We'll have to see how that continues now that they're down to only 3 players. Obviously, the smaller the number of players, the less representative the stats that you get. It's much easier to skew with just like a very good or a very good player or a bad run of form, something along those lines. Into the Dwarves, nope. Into the Demons. Demons are killing it, and by it I mean all of their opponents. This is the 2nd week in a row they got 100% win rate, which again, 2 players, but both of those players are absolutely kicking ass. Both of the Bloodthirster. So that's something to keep in mind. They have an 83% win rate overall, 5 of the 6 games. So Demons are looking pretty good if you're one of the 2 players in SBOT who can play them very well, apparently. Dwarves had a much better week. This time round, there were only 6 players, so they had 3 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws. So I've got it there as a 50% win rate, but honestly, like a really solid week for the Dwarves. You're happy with, only a single loss across 6 players. How are they looking across the board? Well, last week was disastrous, so they're up to now 36%, which is fine. I think they'll probably sit firmly in the 45% win rate by the end, assuming that things even out statistically. After the Dwarves, we've got the High Elves. High Elves, again, looking really good. Only a 50% win rate this week, but undefeated. 2 wins, 2 draws. High Elves absolutely crushing it. 62% win rate overall across the tournament, but there are very few losses. From memory, there might only be 2 losses across the entire event for High Elves, so good place to be, which is funny because High Elves not necessarily regarded as one of the better factions. They were sort of thought of as a dragon plus inefficient unit, so nice to see them kicking ass and taking names. On to the Lizardmen, not great. 33% win rate. I don't know why this is in green. It's bad. I'm not changing it. I ain't got time. But yeah, 1 in 3 games won, and that puts them overall at a 44% win rate. I think that might just keep dropping, honestly. Lizardmen are struggling this event, which is a shame because it's a really fun army. On to the Tomb Kings. This is a pretty good week for the Tomb Kings. 10 players, one of them didn't play or isn't reported as being played in a new recruit. They have 6 wins and 3 losses, so a good 2/3 win rate. And that puts them at a 48% win rate overall, because they did have an absolute horror of a week. I think it was in the first week they just didn't win very many games. So nice to see the Tomb Kings coming back. I think Tomb Kings are a very, very solid army, and once people find their feet with them and get to grips with playing them, whether or not maybe some of the player base is trying things out for the first time, who can say? Then moving on, we have got the Orcs and Goblins. Speaking of recovering from a bad week, Orcs and Goblins go from a 33% win rate to a 66% win rate. I think they only got 1 loss this week. From memory, yeah, it was 6 wins, 1 loss, and 2 draws, so looking fairly solid for the for the Orcs and Goblins. Both of the Troll Horde players got a win, and the Nomadic Horde player got a draw, so no losses for the Arcane Journal, which is a real departure from week 1. But yeah, looking great for Orcs and Goblins. Hopefully that continues. Obviously, that's what I've been playing. Then onwards to the Ogres. Ogres aren't looking good. This is the second week in a row of going 0-3. I know I said nobody goes 0-3 2 weeks in a row for Beastmen, but I feel like Ogres might actually have that. There are some solid players playing them, but it's just, I don't know. I think it's a faction with a lot of struggles at the moment. So they're at a solid 11% for the overall. That is 1 win out of 9 games. Skaven. Now, Skaven, you might think, why don't they have a tornado? They've got a 0% win rate. Well, there's only 2 players, and they got a draw and a loss. And god damn it, they're trying so hard. I think if you've only got 2 players and one of your players draws and one loses, that's a middling result. You know, you take what you can get when you're the Skaven player base, and I'm definitely not biased with my recent forays into Skaven. Then we've got the Vampire Counts. Now, Vampire Counts last week had a pretty solid showing. This week had a pretty shit showing. They are 1 win out of 7 games played, which is not ideal. But, yeah, what's to say? Screams are bad. You heard it here first. There's the hot take. Screams are terrible. We're going to take this really unrepresentative sample size of small, and I'm just going to look you in the face and say, stop playing vampires. Screams are bad. Moving on to Warriors of Chaos. Warriors had a rough week last week, but this week they are back with 4 wins out of 6 games played. One of the players did drop, so they're down to only 6 players out of 7. This does pull them back up. Now they're up to a 55% win rate overall, which feels about right for Chaos. That's about where I'd expect them to sit. You know, they've got dragons, they've got some shenanigans, they're pretty okay. Finally, we've got the Wood Elves. Now, the Wood Elves had 6 players, 3 of which didn't play any games. So they had technically a 100% win rate, if we're just counting the players who have played games, which is what I've done. Yeah. Don't know how to feel about that. That drags them up to a 50% win rate, but honestly, I feel like the fact that only 3 players got to play actually harms the win rate more than boosts it. So Wood Elves still looking pretty good, though. I think, you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see a win from the Wood Elves at this point. There's a couple of lists that are looking pretty solid for the Wood Elves. All right, so as you can see here, we've got the weather overall. Yeah, it's interesting to see the trends here. Chaos Demons are my absolute favourite out of this. I need to see if I can maybe spectate some of the Chaos Demon games if I get time, which I don't have time, but you know, maybe I can make some time. So, great stuff there. Let's move on to having a look at the lists that haven't lost yet. All right, so let's get into these lists. So, first of all, Darius. This is a very good list. This is very efficient. I really like the choices he's gone for. This is, at this point, my number 1 guess for the winner of the SBOT, but we'll see. So, first of all, there's a Glade Lord on Dragon. This is tooled up to be very defensive. So there's a Befuddlement of Mischiefs and an Annoyance of Netlings. That gives you, I believe, -1 weapon skill to units in combat with you, and also -1 to be hit in a challenge. You've also got the Armor of Silvered Steel, Obsidian Lodestone, Talisman of Protection, bit of a ward, bit of a, better armored there, 3-up save, Obsidian Lodestone for magic resist 1. Just trying to be as tanky as possible, it makes a lot of sense. This unit is not tanky to shooting, so it'll be interesting to see. I should probably at some point have a look at the matchups. I haven't actually gone through and done that yet. But I've had 4 gun lines as my pairing, so I think there's a good chance that Darius hasn't played into 4 or 3 gun lines at this point with the results he's been posting. But great results, and if the Glade Lord gets into combat, very good. So I might actually have to see if I can catch one of his games, see how he's playing, because it'll be interesting to see how he's utilising that Glade Lord. Then there's the level 2 and the level 4 Battle Magic Casters. The level 2 has Lore Familiar, gets you the Pillar of Flame. It also gets you Fireball if you want it, or Arcane Urgency maybe you might go for. Then the second one has a Resplendent of Luminance, which I think is -1 to be hit in the shooting phase, something along those lines. Oaken Stave, Ruby Ring of Ruin, so an extra Fireball there is really nice. Oaken Stave is additional to your, I think it's 3-inch Dispel range and +1 to Dispel rolls if you're within range of a wood. I'd have to double check that one, but by the by, it is a buff to the dispelling rolls, basically. Then there is the core 2 units of Deepwood Scouts. You can take one of these per 1,000 points, so taking the maximum there, very good. Hagbane Tips is fantastic on them. The 1 unit of Glade Guard, MSU, you have to take them legally to run Wood Elves, so here we are. Unit of 5 Glade Guard with not really much in the way of upgrades, and then a unit of 8 with Reserve Move and the Banner of Midsummer's Eve, which I can't remember what it does, but if it's 15 points, it might be something like Move Through Cover or something of that sort of ilk. It's a cheap bonus. I'm sure it's useful for the, I'm assuming, bunker for the 2 Battle Magic Casters, basically. The plan being move forwards, cast Pillar of Flame, cast your Fireballs, move backwards. Then in special, we've got 3 Sisters of the Forthorn, so that's 3 more Pillars of Flame, basically. Finally, wrapping up with a single Great Eagle. I'd like to see a second Great Eagle in there, but this list is tuned. It is as efficient as you're going to get with it, so unless you somehow shave points off characters and a little bit of core, I don't know how you get another one in. So great choices here. Like I say, this is my vote for winner of SBOT, but we'll see. Maybe next week or the week after, I'll have to have a look at how the undefeated lists at this point are doing going forwards. Secondly, we've got Zandu, who is playing Tomb Kings. I really like this list. So just to general overview, it is Tomb King's good stuff, which is kind of what you'd expect to see at the end of day 1. You've played 3 games, you've gone back to the hotel. So there's 2 units of Tomb Scorpions, there's 2 Necro Sphinxes, and then there's some interesting core. The 6 Skeleton Chariots, I think, is quite nice. It's not what you'd necessarily expect to see, but it is a beefy unit for the Tomb Kings. And then the meat of it, it's a double dragon. High Priest level 4, Illusion Caster with... So there's the Lore Familiar, so you can pick your spells. There's the Serpent Staff, Potion of Speed. Serpent Staff is kind of like a great weapon, but for Lich Priest only, so it's quite cheap. But then you combo it with Illusion, and you do the spell whose name I always forget. Spectral Doppelganger, there we go. And you're fishing for loads of really high strength auto hits, and also a dragon as well. This is fun. I love a double dragon list. A huge fan of that. It's a lot of fun to see. And obviously the Tomb King there is Talisman Protection, Armor of the Ages, so you're rerolling your wounds into him. I've got a 5-up ward as well, just quite hard to deal with. So yeah, good stuff. I really like this list. I like the chariots. I don't really understand how they're being used. I think I would like to see some gameplay of that one. That would be interesting to watch a game of as well. Then we have got Mikjel, who is playing an Errantry Crusade list. Now, this is Baron Duke Paladin. The Baron is set up with the Ogre Blade, the Virtue of Knightly Temper, so lots of attacks, and hitting you very hard with a Hatred character that does D3 extra attacks, has the Ogre Blade, all that great stuff. The Duke is the tanky one, the Grommel Great Helm, the Syrian's Locket, so immune to multiple damage and killing blow. Also, Virtue of Heroism, so killing blow and Monster Slayer on this model. This is really nice just to chuck into enemy monsters. Interesting that it's this way around. I like having the... I forget the names of them. I like having the character with more attacks be the one that's got the Virtue of Heroism, and then the one that less attacks that have the Virtue of Knightly Temper. But it might be that way around, and it might just have listed it. Someone in the chat let me know which is better, a Baron or a Duke. My brain's gone dark. It's like 11:30 on a Tuesday, so I'm losing the plot a little bit. Then in core, unit of Knights Errant, 2 units of Knights of the Realm. This is fairly standard. You're seeing just not quite MSU units, but just, I think, basically, he went for 2 units of Peg Knights and then just went, how many points can I put into my Knights and just be efficient? So I like the 8s. I think 8s have got a lot more staying power than the 6s, obviously, but I think it makes a real difference in what you can actually put out as well. So yeah, Errantry Crusade, I think this is a fairly solid list. Nothing in there is super surprising to me, apart from the fact there's no level 4 caster, actually. Wow. This is just straight violence. Okay. Big fan of that. Straight violence. Who needs casters if you if you just kill them first? So, big fan of that one. All right, moving on to Divers. This is the demons list. So I want to take a little moment just to have a look at this one because this is spicy. So this is the Bloodthirster with the Great Axe and the Armor of Khorne. The Armor of Khorne gives you a armor save, a 5-up armor save. It's heavy armor, but it also gives you a 5-up ward at all times. Normally demons lose their ward save against magical attacks, so I think it's very important to put that on there. But then gone for the Great Axe. I really like the Flail, but I guess the Great Axe is solid as well. I'll be honest, I can't remember. There's 3 weapons you can put on the Bloodthirster, and they're all very similar but slightly different in their own way. So, gone with the Great Axe there. Demon Prince, level 4, Tzeentch, Demonology, Flavor Fail. Tzeentch and Khorne, can't be done. However, really solid unit. Flaps around, and what's it got? Fly, Aether Blade, so ignoring saves in combat with its hand weapon, and just slapping and casting, basically there. Herald of Khorne on foot with the Demonic Locust, that's your BSB, effectively, and on a Juggernaut of Khorne as well. In the core, 2 units of 6 of the Chaos Furies. I really like the Furies. They are Demons of Khorne there. Just solid little chaff units. I think they're very solid there. And then 2 units of Flesh Hounds as well, both with Vanguard. Both, 5 model units. They don't kill a huge amount. They don't have... I think they've got Armor Bane. I don't think they've got any actual AP on their attacks. But they have 2 wounds each, so they're quite wounds dense for a low point per wound, which is value in its own. In the special, there's a unit of 3 Blood Crushers. God, they're so expensive. And in the rare, there's 4 Beasts of Nurgle, which I really like, because Beasts are fairly tanky. They're a fairly annoying unit to get through. So this is one that I'd be interested to... I might, at the end of the event, maybe see if some of the players who've done well would be willing to talk about their list, because I think this is a really interesting list, and I'd love to hear more about how it ticks. Then we've got Jelly, another Tomb Kings list. This time it is the just the standard Tomb Kings. I think the last one was standard Tomb Kings as well, actually. So we're seeing a Tomb King on the dragon there as well. Interestingly, gone for a flail instead of something else. Fair. Gone Armor of the Ages, Talisman of Protection. Just what you'd expect to see from a Tomb King on Dragon. Then we've got a High Priest, which is a level 4 with Lore Familiar, Necromancy, Ruby Ring, and Ruin. Reasonably obvious choices there. And a Necrotect as well to buff up a unit that it's in. Which will be, I guess, the Tomb Guard, because there is a Brick of Tomb Guard with the Banner of the Desert Winds, which I think gives reserve move from memory there. Also, we've got some just scattering of small units. So you've got Horse Archers, you've got Skeleton Skirmishers, you've got a Chariot, you've got some Archers. I think this list is going to be quite hard to pin down outside of its sort of major threats. So you can, a lot of redirecting is my read on how this list is playing. There's a unit of Necropolis Knights, which is, I think, fairly solid for the points. 2 Tomb Scorpions as well. Tomb Scorpions are just incredible. Take them. Doesn't matter if you're in Mortuary Cult, just take them. And then we're seeing a Cascade of Skulls, very good, a Necrosphinx, and a Screaming Skull Catapult. I think this is a really nice combination of things to put in your rare. You can go for 2 Necrosphinxes, but then you can't fit anything else in. I really like just taking one of each. All of them are good. All of them sort of... There's force multipliers in there, not all of them, but the Screaming Skull Catapult I think is like a Terror Bomb. I mean, it says Terror Bomb at the top of the list. I should have just read that. Cascade of Souls makes it really hard to chew through the horde of units in front of you. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of moving pieces here that all overlap quite nicely. So big fan of that one. Still prefer the Double Dragon list a bit more. Royal Rich. Now, this was my round 1 opponent, so you might look at it and go, it's just one of everything. Yeah, it turns out one of everything in an Empire army is pretty solid, despite what people might have thought before we came to the event. So you've got a captain on the Demigryph, and an engineer, and then a Lector of Sigmar as well. So the Lector is just a chariot, basically, does some prayers, and there's also a level 4 Battle Magic caster. Is this different to... I think this is losing the plot. Like I say, it's late at night, and I almost feel like this is different to the list that I played in with, but never mind. It obviously can't be. So, a couple of units, or a unit of Empire Knights, a unit of Veteran State Troops in the core, Demogryph Knights, a Great Cannon, and a Steam Tank, and a Hellblaster Volley Gun. It's just one of everything. It's going to shoot you at range. It's going to bore you off. It's going to, the Steam Tank just gets in the way and is hard to deal with, and it's a secondary cannon. It's very tough. The Demogryph Knights are very good. Obviously, they're an independent force. The Captain on Empire likes going in with the big brick of the Veteran State Troops and just makes them a hard CR unit to deal with. Not a lot to say about it. It's just, Empire are fairly straightforward. You look at the units, you know what they do. So I like this list. It's pretty solid. It beat me, so I've got to say that. Then we have got Sean. Sean is playing High Elves. So High Elves, this is the list with a level 4 on foot with Lore Familiar, Elementalism, Ruby Ringaroon. Goes in with the Sea Guard as well by the looks of things. That's interesting. So I guess that is Plague of Rust to just synergize with the massive amount of shots that you'll get from this list. So then there's a noble as well on a griffin. Starting to see more nobles on griffin, which I think is really interesting. Not anywhere near as effective as a dragon, but way cheaper. So cheap little skirmish unit. And then, spoiler, there's a lord on dragon as well. Star Dragon, great weapon, Seed of Rebirth, Opal Amulet, Talisman of Protection, Pure of Heart. Pure of Heart means that you can't be, terror bombed to death, which is really nice. It's basically like Inspiring Presence 2.0 that doesn't get shut off by the spells that you can bring if you are in Necromancy. What else you got on here? Got a 2 upward for the Opal Amulet. You've got a 5, that's a once per game, so basically turns off a Monster Slayer wound that goes through. Talisman of Protection is a 5 upward all of the time. Seed of Rebirth is a 5 up regen. Dragon Hull, that gets you 2 up save. It's a high elf lord on dragon. I don't know what you want me to say. It's pretty standard there. Lothan Seagird, unit of 19. I like them. They're fun. They have got what upgrade? It says there's a magic banner, but I can't see what the magic banner is. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that the magic standard they have is the one that gives you Armor Bane 2. But maybe there isn't one. Maybe that's just an option that was ticked and then no magic banner actually bought. Tunus of Silver Helms. Silver Helms are pretty solid. Then 24 points a model is pretty okay, and they're a medium cavalry, I guess, heavy cavalry, but not one of the heavy cavalries. In rare, we've got some Great Eagle, just one. Lothan Skycutter. I quite like this. It's a heavy chariot that has D3 plus 1 impact hits, I think, from memory at AP2, but it's also got Swift Stride. It is very glass cannon. And then speaking of glass cannon, there's an absolute unit of Sisters of Avalon with Stubborn. There's the Lawmaster's Cloak as well, which is a 4-up ward against, I want to say, magic missiles. So this is just like a massive brick of 20 Sisters, basically, 19 plus the character there. Solid. I've come up against this, not this list, but the big brick of 20. It's very effective. I would have liked to seen a sister, the character option that comes with a horn that you can blow to give +1 to hit and +1 to wound as well, because that can just really delete a hard target if you need it to. But still, very solid. Looks like a good list, and like I said earlier, High Elves are doing pretty well. Kairos is playing Orcs and Goblins. Shout out to my Orcs and Goblins representing. So we've got here, there is a Black Orc War Boss. It's the Wyvern. I think it's fairly standard. It's Trollhide Trousers, Talisman of Protection, great weapon, shield. Yeah, great. 2 up save against shooting, 3 up save against melee, 5 up ward, 5 up regen. Just good, just very good. There is a level 4 Elementalism Goblin caster as well. And then there are 2 Night Goblin Big Bosses. One of them has the Wallop as 1-hit wonder, which is a funny item that lets you make 3 attacks of strength 10 AP3 once per game. If you got 15 points, put it on. It is funny. And then there's an Orc Big Boss and an Orc Weird Knob as well. The Big Boss is a BSB. There is BSB on a banner with, War Banner. So just a little bit of extra combat res and some rerolls. Rerolls are really important for Orcs and Goblins, so I think you should start putting BSBs in all of your lists if you haven't got them already. Orc Weird Knob as well, level 4 caster, Ruby Ring of Ruin, Idol of Gork. From memory, that's +3 inches to your cast range, and also reroll a single failed cast a turn, something along those lines. In the core, we've got a big brick of veteran Black Orcs. They're suitably teethed, buffed to the nines. They've got great weapons and shields, and there's guff happening across there for the Motley Crew shenanigans. 2 units of Night Goblins, which are 21 plus Fanatics, and then 3 small units of Orc Boys. I think we need to see more of these, honestly. Small chaff units of Orc Boys are very, very strong, and they're so cheap as well. Like, look at that. 25 points for 5 models with bows. I need to start running them when I start running my Orcs and Goblins again. In the rare, 2 Doom Divers as well, and then also a Mangler Squig. Just great options. Maybe I'd like to have seen a second Mangler Squig if you could shave some points off core, but it's hard to do because you've got to put your Fanatics in there, and also the chaff units are very good. So I think this is a really solid Orcs and Goblins list. Then we've got Schmuck playing Warriors of Chaos. This is the big Chaos Lord. Enchanting Aura for Fights Last, Ogre Blade for... It's an Ogre Blade, you know what that does. 2 Favour the Gods to reroll if you roll Stupidity on your favour table. Paymaster's Coin for a once per game reroll your hits, and then Mark and Nurgle, so if you're attacking into this Lord, you're rerolling your 6s to hit. That's really annoying. Other than that, Sonic Dragon. I don't know if I said that. It's Chaos Lord and Dragon. You know it. You love it. Sorcerer Lord as well. Level 4 Battle Magic. Markers inch, so you can hopefully roll Spell Familiar and Infernal Puppet. So Spell Familiar is +1 spell known. Infernal Puppet is a 24-inch aura of opponents cast on a 3 dice but drop the highest, and also are more likely to miscast. It's not okay for 50 points. It is way too good. So the gimmick here is you try and get your Pillar of Flame and your Fireball and your Blue Fire of Siege, I think the spell is called, which is a really, really good range spell there. In core, we're looking at some Warhounds, some Chaos Warriors, Forsaken, and Marauder Horsemen. Really like the 14 Forsaken. That'll be run as a 2x7, I think, realistically. The Warriors, I'm not 100% sure what they're there for, but they're cheap-ish, I guess, for what they are. I would like to see shields on them, I think, because it would be an extra 7 points to the unit, but it would give them a 4-up save against shooting. Yeah, I'm not the one who's doing well with the list, so what do I know? Then we've also got just Dragon Ogres galore in the core there. So a unit of 4, a unit of 1, and a unit of 3, all of them upgraded to have champions. I actually don't think champions are correct, honestly, unless you're using the champions to get some sort of buff off on them. I think you're probably better off not doing that. So if you get charged by a Lord on Dragon or something like that, you can actually bring the hurt back. I think I'd prefer to see them not with champions. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any changes that Schmuck makes down the line. Last but not least, Scoutlands. So not this week, but the week before, I put a battle report up. I think it was this week. Yeah, my Skaven versus Scoutlances dwarf list. So I've got to tell you that his list is good because I played against it again. So this is... I really like this list. It's a little bit more mobile than some of the lists you've seen so far, or I've played against with dwarves. So you've got an anvil, you've got 2 engineers, a king, and a thane. The king is fairly choppy. Master Rune of Smiting, Rune of Might, Rune of Preservation as well to just soak up some of the incoming wounds, and also to shield bearers as well for the extra wounds there. Thane comes with the BSB Master Rune of Grongi as well, and that goes into either the Dwarf Warriors or the Longbeards. The characters can go in either of those realistically. I think there's some swapping around you can do. Also, there's the Hammerers. You probably want to put one of the characters in the Hammerers so they get their special rules. I think it's the Challenge special rule that they unlock. Honestly, I'm not super sold on 12 Hammerers, but again, I'm not the one who's 3-0 with Dwarves, so what do I know? 2 Gyrocopters. These things I really like. They're fast, they're annoying. You've got to deal with them. They're a real pain in the backside. And other than that, Warriors, Longbeards, Rangers. Rangers are going to shoot you and then chop you in combat if you get to them. The Warriors are just cheap for what they do. Cheap combat res for Dwarves is really nice. And then Longbeards are actually a fairly solid unit. From memory, they're Strength 4 natively, so that takes them up to Strength 6 with the Great Weapons, which I think is really solid. A couple of Organ Guns as well. Organ Guns, for those of you who've been playing against Empire, imagine a Hellblaster volley gun that only shoots 2 artillery dice worth of shots, but it has a 30-inch range. I actually think I might take that trade-off. If you can, project threat, having a 30-inch range gun is much better than a 24-inch range gun. I'm quite a big fan of that. All right, well, thank you for watching. This has been the week 3 roundup. I thought it'd be nice to have a look at the lists that have been doing well so far, because we are now halfway through the tournament. I'll be back with another weather update next week. Maybe if there's any interesting results that catch my eye, or anything that you particularly want me to have a look at, let me know, and I can look at that for week number 4. Thanks for watching. Thank you for watching. If you haven't already, there's a link to subscribe over here. I really appreciate the support I've received over the last few months, and I'm looking forward to improving the channel and bringing you more content as the months go on. Down below are all the links. There's the Element affiliate link, all of our links to Discord, the 40k sister channel, everything else that we're doing down below. And on this side, there's another video. You don't have to click it, but you could. You could click it.